Okay, so now we're in ZBrush. I brought the base model in just ahead, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead and sculpt this out as best as we can. When I'm finished with this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hand the ZTL off to Ben, where he's gonna go over extracting the displacement map, and he's gonna also use that ZTL in conjunction with building a bump map, and also maybe do some color um, in ZBrush. So first thing we're doing is we're just gonna rough in our major areas. So we want to keep everything just as low as we can right now and just get in the main form. So we're gonna turn on our symmetry and just go ahead and just start sculpting it. Later on, we're gonna turn our symmetry off, and then we're gonna treat each side independently. So sculpting, it's not a really fast process where you just get in and sculpt and get out. And sometimes it could tend to be a little slower, a little tedious. But for the sake of this DVD, we're gonna just speed things up a little bit. So what we're doing now is we're just going in and just adding in uh, little areas where we think the volume isn't right. And getting a once we start getting a liking for how our shape's building up, then we'll start to go in and do the finer stuff. But for now, we're just gonna go ahead and just do basic stuff. So I know this is just a start, but just to get it out of the way is whenever I'm doing a sculpt and I know that we're gonna go in and extract a displacement map, I tend to over exaggerate a little bit just so that we could get all the details into the map once we're gonna go ahead and extract that displacement map. If you just if your model has really subtle areas, there's a good chance that it's not gonna get picked up too good once you go ahead and generate that map. So what I usually do is just exaggerate just a little bit. So we're just doing really minor adjustments here before we go in and actually start doing our sculpt. So right now, if you look at the base, when we brought it in, it had that really smooth, clean look. Geo is supposed to be this seasoned veteran, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna age him a little bit, not too much. He's not an old man, but he's not as young as our base model seems to be. Also, you may notice that we're not gonna work on a higher resolution. We're gonna work in this the lowest resolution we could work in, and still be able to see enough details. So we're gonna just stay and work in this level and before we move up any higher. It's just a lot easier to manage, and the loops are easy to control. So we're just gonna get in as much form as possible, and then we'll move up onto the finer stuff later on. So a lot of times you'll see a model, and it doesn't matter how detailed you go in and make your model. If your underlying form isn't right, then it's just never gonna look right. Doesn't matter how awesome the details you're painting on your model is. So you should always make sure that your form is correct. And then after you get that down, you could always go in and just sculpt your living heart out. But if your form's not right, then it doesn't matter how much sculpting you're doing. It's just not gonna look good. So we're gonna go ahead and add a mask, and just drop these eyebrows down just a little bit more. And again, like I always say in previous chapters, don't be afraid to just add in over the top details with the intention of just not using it, or just you with the intention of undoing, but just so you get an idea as far as how far not to push the model. Okay, we're gonna keep working at this, and still right now everything's symmetrical. Once we get a form that we think is okay as a start, then we'll just go ahead and take off that symmetry tool. The skull usually tends to be a hard area to just nail. I think he's gonna have hair. I'm not sure. So we're just still working our way at this shape, trying to make sure all the angles seem accurate. These nostrils are looking a little small. Let's go ahead and make those a little bit bigger. One thing that makes modeling a human face really hard is that there's so many key points that you're just subconsciously able to pick up on. If let's say for instance you're modeling a face and you miss only a couple minor features, um, chances are someone could pick up on that. They probably won't know what's wrong with the face, but it'll just seem off, and that's always been one of the hardest things to just get absolutely right. Having to um, portray your model in a realistic sense is just there are so many factors that makes a face real. Okay, we're just fleshing the nostril area out and we're moving on. Getting some wrinkles right underneath his chin, his jaws, I'm sorry. And he's gonna be covered with the suit, so there's no point of actually sculpting anything below what I'm sculpting right now. So we're just continuing on the minor detail updates. Area seems a little too smooth. As I said earlier, we're just gonna just take our time in building a nice starting point. We could always go in afterwards and add all the little details, but it's always harder to go back and fix any things that are wrong with your form. I'm gonna go ahead and give him a um, little indent in the chin. We also need to go ahead and rework some of the. We need to sculpt out the ears since they were built to be sculpted. Okay. So I've moved ahead a little bit further, and I mean the only thing I did was just I just continued doing what I was doing when we started this chapter. So we're just added in the details and just make sure the form's right underneath also. So now we start to add a little bit more rough wear and tear into his face. It's not as smooth as we had it before. So we're just gonna keep sculpting at this. Okay, so as you can see, we're getting in the cheekbone and area underneath the eye. I'm still not too happy with a lot of areas, so we're just gonna keep hacking away at this. Okay, originally we had a little extra scarring on his head, but we may end up just taking those out, and they may be a little bit too much. Um, Not too sure how much of this stuff or what it's gonna look like after we extract the map, so that'll determine if we go ahead and just add a little bit more or just take out a little bit of displacement in certain areas. Okay, we're trying to get in all the subtlety without being too subtle. Okay, so now we're moving on a little bit further, and we swapped out our alpha, and we're going ahead just to just add a little bit more detail on the geometry. Now, whether we tone this down or not, as I said, yet to be undetermined. Depends on the results that we get from this map. Oh, if you're wondering why I haven't been using the red wax shader, um, I guess the only reason is that it's a little forgiving in the crevices, and I need to be able to see what exactly what I want the map to look like after I extract it. So that's all. There are lots of little areas just to go in and just break up the surface. Oftentimes you'll see a model and you'll notice that the surface just seems a little bit too smooth. And even with a good bump map, if you don't have any irregularity or any breakup um, within that surface, then it's just gonna seem a little bit too smooth. So we're just going ahead and just breaking it up a little. Now this may be too much, but as I said, we could always um, take some of this out. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and keep adding little at a time. Just keep adding in breakup. The hard part is that not we're not using symmetrical brushes, but the good thing is that it'll look that much better not being symmetrical. So whatever you do on one side will just complement the other side. Oftentimes, just having both sides of the face symmetrical, again, that goes back to the you're not sure what's wrong with the face, but something just seems off. Well, that's because there's a symmetry line in the middle, and there's no face that has the same details on one side on the other side. In terms of cheekbones, you may have a slightly protruding left cheekbone or a right nostril that's a little higher, or just the way your eyes are in a relaxed position. One may be a little bit closed more, one may be slightly open, wider. So there's countless stuff um, that adds to believability of any CG face. So we're just going to continue to adding in as much breakup that we can, as much subtle breakup as we can. And another thing to keep in mind is that after we extract the displacement map, um, come render time, a lot of your details are just going to be subdued. So all these little areas that we're adding in, little subtle brush strokes, they probably most likely won't pick up in the render. Okay, so keep in mind that this is the first pass. Uh, this is the first displacement pass that we're doing. So we're gonna have an idea after I get this ZTL over to Ben and he gets that map into some texture tests. He'll be able to have an idea um, if the displacement map's working properly. I'll then have an idea what it's looking like, and if I feel like I need to make any changes, I'll just go back in, um, make the appropriate changes, and just hand them back displacement, a different displacement map. I think for the Gentle Giants sculpt, I'm thinking of going ahead and just add in maybe just some hair, just sculpt some hair in. It usually completes a model compared to a character that's left bald. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a bald character, but usually a character that has hair it just tends to feel a little bit more complete. So I think for that 3D printout, I'm gonna go ahead and just sculpt some hair in. Now we're just getting that skin area underneath the neck. Try to keep it subtle, but there's a lot of minor information in there. Okay, so we seem to be doing okay so far, and I'm probably gonna wrap this up pretty soon so that I could send this over to Ben and see if there's any changes that I'm gonna have to um, get on this model. Okay, so I'm just about ready to wrap this up, and as I said, first pass, I'm gonna send this over to Ben and see if see if the displacement map works or not, and depending on that, I'll go back in and make any final change changes that I need to make. But as far as what we have right now seems to be just fine. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start sculpting out the suit, and maybe after that we'll get to the head and see if it'll look better just by sculpting in some generic hair. I mean, it's not horrible right now, but we'll just toy with the idea of having hair or not after we're finished with the suit. Okay, so one advantage with this design is that there's so many small pieces of objects that the suit already looks like there's a lot of detail, even without going in and add in any wrinkles or anything in ZBrush. So chances are we won't have to actually do just a lot of work. I'm seeing it just being on the bigger areas, um, just on the suit itself, wrinkles going across the pants, on the sleeves, on some of the pads in the front and back, but not really on any of the smaller accessories. So let's just start on the pants. So we're gonna go ahead and start sculpting on the crotch area, and that area usually tends to have a lot of deformation, so it's just going to be a lot of wrinkles coming from there. One of the important things that you have to worry about is not um, just sculpting in a wrinkle, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to look right. So you have to be careful, bring up a reference or two of just cloth wrinkling in that area, and just go ahead and mimic that. Just get an understanding of exactly how the wrinkles are just flowing outward. And again, it's just somewhat of a timely matter. Just go ahead and just sculpt and just get it right. There's no rush unless you have a deadline and you have to turn it in pretty soon. Then, other than that, just make it look right the first time. So we're doing kind of the same thing. We're starting in the lowest level that we could actually sculpt and see results. And then once we have some of the base form in this case is wrinkles, we'll go in and then step up a level and continue. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and just break up this pocket area on the pants. May have gotten smoothed out a little bit more than anticipated, so let's just add some puffiness, simulating that there's something inside, and some wrinkles that would be emulating from the corners. We'll just get that in real quick. Okay. So we're gonna do the same thing for the other pockets. Well, we're pretty much gonna do the same thing for um yeah, any larger item on his body. So now we just stepped up a level and we're gonna go in and just add a little bit more detail in the pants. Okay, we just accentuating this groove area. So one of the main purposes of what we're doing is just besides breaking up the shape and adding in some minor wrinkles, is just to make sure that if there's a shape resting on another shape, we'll just go in and just maybe put a little a ridge around that shape on top just to make it feel like it's really resting on it. I just go go around checking the model, making sure um, everything's good. So far, everything seems fine. Okay, so we're gonna go down to the calf area and start adding in calf and shin area, and we're gonna start adding in some wrinkles also in the pants on there. We want to mimic that bunching up feel where it's not all small wrinkles. Some are slightly larger and just that natural feel of cloth. Even though this material isn't exactly thin, but there should be some folding going on. So we're gonna go ahead and just kind of pop these pads out a little bit. And we also went ahead and just built out this base for him to stand on. Get some breakup also in the shoe. So we're just adding a little bit of wear and tear. We're gonna go back in and add some more once we're finished with the first pass. Let's get some wrinkles in the arm. Okay, so we're good for now. Pretty much we're just gonna go over the entire body and areas where we need just minor wrinkles. We're gonna go ahead and add them in, and areas that need to be flushed with maybe tool materials, I'll go add that in also. So everything we're doing are just simple, basic things, nothing complicated. Get in the middle of the shoulder pads. Okay, so we went ahead and just pretty much did the same thing we did, continued all the way across the body, and just added wrinkles where we thought would help the model. We didn't go in and just paint a ton of wrinkles. We just, add in a few wrinkles here and there, just so it could, have a more natural feel. So now we're gonna start on the hair and see what it looks like. Nothing too crazy, just see if it benefits from having the hair or not. So let's turn off all the other layers except the head, and then we'll go ahead and start. Okay, so we're just gonna do a rough start. Gonna trace an outline and then just gonna fill that in and see where that takes us. Okay, so we're just fleshing this in. It's not gonna be it's not gonna be perfect, especially from the start. So we're just trying to get a general idea of, how much does the hair add to his character. Especially for the sculpt, I'd rather not have it print out bald since I don't know. It's just always generic having the character bald. So I'm just gonna go in and sculpt, and this is just a quick lay down. I'm gonna go back in and refine this in a minute. So we're just gonna extend these hairs all the way to the back, kind of like a slick look. If we weren't going for the slick look, then we would be doing what I'm doing right now, where everything spans out from that spiral. But we're gonna go with the slick look, so we don't need to do that. We just need to have everything go all the way to the back. Okay, let's add in a little bit finer details. We gotta soften out that front area. Okay, it seems like it's coming along okay. Um, let's see. We're gonna go ahead and just refine this some more. And here is an update. And we just added, just went in with a smaller brush and just continued to um, have that hair just slick all the way to the back. And for what it is, I definitely think it's good enough, and I think it just looks better than the just leaving the character with a bald head. So even though it's not the prettiest hair sculpt, it does add character, and that's all I wanted to do. So what we're gonna do after this is we're gonna go ahead and set up a render, set up a turntable, and we'll have this guy just rendered out to add any last subtleties to the face. And we should be about good. We should be good. Okay, so I guess looking back, I'm glad that Peter designed the this. I'm glad that Peter took the approach he did in choosing this design, and I'm also glad that Mark also went ahead and added a few extra um, details in there. Um, it just made it a lot easier for it to stand out and not look too plain. If that wasn't the case, then we would have had to do a lot more sculpt in ZBrush. But since there's so much things going on, your eyes bounces around. I think it was definitely a good job on both artists' side. So with that said, let's wrap this up and we'll set off a turntable. Oh, one more thing. Since we're sending this off to Gentle Giants to be printed out, I had to go in and make sure that the model was watertight. Before there were a couple gaps. Now I just went in and sealed everything, so all the pieces should be penetrating just enough. So with that said, I think that's about it.